Hey, you got a son or daughter's wedding coming up, something else really important to you, maybe a class reunion, and you want to look your best. If you're a woman in midlife, you know that's a little frustrating because what you used to do that worked doesn't anymore. Here's what I did 3 weeks before my son's wedding, some of these things 4 and 5 weeks, but that's about all it took for me to really feel my best on wedding day. Here they are. I gave up dieting. The whole idea that we should completely cut calories, create a caloric deficit, and yet that caloric deficit may have showed up in other ways. But I let go of the idea that I was on a diet, that I was doing something. And here's how I did it. So, number one, I eliminated all the extracurricular fats that were sneaking into my diet. And I just took a look at how much difference that might make. And I have to tell you, I was not using an app, I was not keeping track of the number of calories or the grams of fat that I was taking in before it or during it. But I eliminated it. And as I was doing that, got very conscious about all the places I was using fat, even the healthy fats. So we're talking olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil or coconut cream. And I mean canned cream. So not the stuff that is a creamer with sugar and additives in it, but I use powdered coconut in my coffee, and or I'll use canned cream and actually whip it up and use that. But I took out everything else. So I actually stopped eating salads. If you can believe that, why would a salad be bad? Well, sometimes on the gut, that roughage actually isn't great for everybody, and you don't know it until you take it out. Another thing I did was give up my extra coffee. Now, I allow myself 2 mugs every day, and it's either for me, it's matcha, meaning concentrated powdered green tea, or it's coffee. But most often, the last 3 years, it's been matcha. My gut feels better. I have the caffeine, not quite as high as coffee, but it's very close. It's negligible, the difference. And yet, not the jittery stuff that happens because of a special component that's in it. And the antioxidant components in matcha are also phenomenal. Your skin also will thank you for that. But I found that my gut was not loving the amount of coffee I was having. And I discovered that after writing a book. So my ritual, the reason I loved it and I resort to it is if I'm working on something and I need focus, I love that, holding a warm mug in my hands, even when it's 100 degrees outside, go figure. But I found that for most women, this is true. We're more impacted by the negative influence of cortisol or of stress. And when blood sugar goes up, and caffeine can do that, even if you're talking black coffee and you don't do anything to it. I do. I put a little coconut cream and I put a little stevia in it. But even that will spike my blood sugar. I've tested it over and over with a continuous blood glucose monitor. When I do have coffee, I will have Danger Coffee because it's clean, and I will share the link with you down below for a special discount on that if you want to try it. But most of the time I have matcha. I might have, if I'm having one more cup during the day, it'll be Danger. But I found approaching the wedding that I just was like, I don't want to do that. And it made me really reflect, am I hydrated enough? Because why do I need the pick-me-up of the caffeine anyway? And often it was like, maybe not. I could use probably a little bit more water with electrolytes like Element that gets it into your cells. And did I eat enough protein at the last 2 meals? Because it's not just what you've done like most recently, but for the last 16 hours, that's impacting your energy level most. And did I skip or skimp on carbs? We need high quality carbohydrates, generally not first thing in the morning, but as the day goes on, you need a little bit more because as cortisol comes down, we get edgy. You know that hangry word? That's where it comes from. Cortisol is coming down. You kind of just feel on edge, and we need something to replace the energy that we got from cortisol. But if we don't think consciously, we'll reach for the coffee or we'll reach for sugar. Neither one of those is a good option. So what I found when I kicked any extra. So I am like a 2 mugs and done by 10 a.m. kind of gal. Works best for me to be at my ideal weight. And when I did that, instead of resorting to that extra caffeine in the afternoon, first of all, I improved my other habits. I was more hydrated, conscious of my protein, getting adequate carbohydrates, and my weight was definitely better. So less puffy, less fluffy, less padding in the cushions. And you eliminate that, and then your energy level soars and your sleep is actually better too. I gave up really long workouts. Now, I was training a group of people for doing rim to river to rim at the Grand Canyon. And that's a pretty long hike and it's uphill to finish. So there's a big training plan associated with that. And I like to do it with them. So mentally, I'm thinking, what are they thinking? What's the resistance that they're having? So I'm right there in the boat with you while you're doing it. And as soon as we were done, about 6 weeks out from the wedding, I stopped that long endurance training and it really helped. So every single day, I would walk 30 or 60 minutes, kind of one of two loops, depending on how much time I had that day. And or if I had beat the heat, because we were still dealing with 110 degrees. And you reach a certain point in the morning and you're probably not going to go for the hour. But what I found is by eliminating that much longer, regular, long distance workouts, I again dropped some cortisol. 4 miles in an hour is about my pace. That's almost 10,000 steps. So using that adage of 10K a day, I don't think everybody actually needs that. And if you are using all of your time in just walking, it's probably not helping you enough. You need strength training, and I would rather see you do 6 or 7,000 and do your strength training with the other time that you have remaining. But if you're able to get both and you have great energy, definitely do. Those long, slow things had to go. And as soon as they did, my energy was better, my sleep was better, and lost again some of that puffy and fluffiness. Okay, so I'm back at this, but this is one of the things that I dropped. I dropped high intensity intervals. And again, I focused on walking, just getting steps in, getting movement in. So some days it was that 4 mile walk. Some days there was a 4 mile walk, plus there was a dog walk here and there, playing with the dog in the backyard. Lots of movement, still catching my breath as I'm not fully in post-wedding shape. But although we think and we hear so often that you should be doing high intensity interval training to focus on belly fat and getting rid of that visceral belly fat. And yes, it will work, but it doesn't work for everyone all the time. So if you are already highly stressed, and I want you to think about times when that might be true, you're leading up to a major life stressor, like somebody's passing, your caregiving, your son or daughter's wedding, right? Good stress, but stress nonetheless. There's going to be times when the always doesn't apply to you. And you say, always accept. There's always that exception to the rule. What I found is giving up the hit and really focusing on the walking and the weight training. And, definitely getting into mobility and focusing on that. I was using my power plate a whole lot more just at the end of every day, working on balance, working on core, doing it. Little things, yes, but I was not like overly obsessed with high intensity interval training or getting long distance exercise in. It was the two things that did the most. It was strength training and walking 30 or 60 minutes. That was it. Now, as we got closer to the event, in the last couple of weeks, and definitely in that last week while we were in it, I was really busy and really short on time. So didn't have time some days to go for a 30-minute walk. So those days I did do intervals. And what ended up happening is I had higher energy, I had more tone and definition because of the combination of the two, the leading up to it that I'd done and then the during. And for anybody who's asking, what did I do over the weekend? Because as mother of the groom, you host the welcome dinner and you are certainly taking part in the ceremony and the rehearsal, or I'm sorry, the reception and the dinner that goes with that. I enjoyed it. That's all. And seriously, if you're looking at meals, you know that it's really, here's your protein and you're going to have vegetable on the plate, and a lot of times those are high quality vegetables. Maybe it's brown rice, but generally it's potatoes on the table. So these are whole foods. There's really nothing wrong with that meal, and there's probably some kind of a vegetable, whether it's green beans or it's asparagus or something else. So it's a pretty balanced plate. It's the dessert that's the anomaly. Personally, I enjoyed it both nights. The worst thing that I did, and it was completely unintentional, I don't actually drink. And so if I do, I'm going to feel it very quickly because somebody hands me a glass, I drink it like water. And this happened to taste a lot like grape juice. And I don't know how much alcohol there might have been, not enough. But I had that on an empty stomach, so I grabbed an hors d'oeuvre as they were going around, but that would have been the worst thing that I had done. Have the hors d'oeuvres first, then have the drink, because otherwise you've spiked your blood sugar because your stomach's on empty. And probably in a day like that for you, if you're mother of the bride or mother of the groom, you had a little bit more adrenaline going that day. So even more so, you're a little bit more hypersensitive to alcohol and to blood sugar rises. So stabilize that blood sugar first. And I made sure the morning of, we had a 3:30 wedding. I made sure that I had high protein breakfast before the walkthrough, which is how we did it for ours, and had a high protein lunch again, because it was going to be, 6 or 7 hours before we actually sat down to dinner, but stayed hydrated the rest of the time. So just know it's what you do most of the time. A single day is not going to negatively impact you, but you will feel better, more energetic, get through the whole night, be in a better mood, and enjoy it. If you stay very hydrated, stick to what primarily is your intention, and then also just enjoy it.